I'm Craig Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different and every breakup is different. Work with me and you'll get professional help on your situation. And if you're in no contact focused on personal growth, my Knowledge Workbook series and Creative Healing course can help you make changes like you've never made before. Available now at AskCraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And in this video, we're going to be talking to you about much to learn you still have.
Is that a Star Wars?
I can't even with this.
Did Chewbacca say that?
Yeah, it was Chewbacca. He said it to R2-D2. It's a quote from Yoda in Star Wars that it's interesting to me because a lot of times we can really get ahead of ourselves in a breakup and kind of overestimating what we think we know or what we're ready for.
Right. It takes time to make some lasting change.
Absolutely. Many of you guys, you hear us joke about, oh, you contact your ex after 3 weeks telling them that you've changed and you've grown. And I assure you, you have not. You may be aware of some of those issues, but if you get in front of them, I promise you it's going to be 10 times harder than you realize.
Right, and Margaret had this nice analogy about the pothole. Do you remember that? Where she would talk about the first time you walk down the path, you might notice the pothole. The second time, you might notice it and still fall in it. It might take a couple times of seeing it and being able to know what to do to get around it. So her point was it takes time, not just awareness. Awareness is a huge part of it. I'm all about awareness.
Yeah.
Awareness is a huge part of it. But it takes time to know what to do with that awareness.
Most people are not going to get back with their ex because they're going to overestimate their progress in no contact. Many of you are only watching the no contact videos, and it's easy for me to see which videos are getting watched and not getting watched. We put out content about how to, make your partner feel cared about or something along those lines, and you guys don't watch it because you get obsessed on the wrong thing. And that is not going to prepare you for getting in front of your ex or making long-lasting changes. So this is me imploring you to seriously step back and consider if you're overestimating how prepared you are. It'd be like you preparing for a fight and you have, you prepare in the gym every day, you train, but it's very different than when you're actually in the ring. Okay? So please understand that if you don't really spend the time thinking about the relationship, what you're going to do different, how you're going to be better, and I'm not saying it's all your fault, but in your ex's mind it probably is, right? For many of the reasons, you're not going to be ready. Your anxious tendencies are going to come out.
Right, and one of the things that we say often is what's worse here is getting back into a relationship for it to fail again. So we don't want to put you in that position where you feel over-prepared and then you fall back into those same patterns from before, right? The real test happens when you want to go back to those old ways of coping that have been hurtful and you choose not to. That's really the challenge.
And you've heard us say you got to put yourself on probation for 9 months because I can tell you what most people will do. You guys start to think your ex is not going to come back. You give up on the personal growth. Then they come back. Then either you're kind of prepared or you get in front of them and it doesn't go well and it falls apart. Some of you guys keep it going, but then after you get your ex back, you go back to your old ways. And then 5 months after the breakup, you're in another breakup.
Yeah.
So trust me, put yourself on probation for 9 months. You're going to be a lot less likely to go back to those old anxious ways or those avoidant ways that really hurt the connection and make people lose attraction.
Right, and we know that, nobody is perfect here. There's going to be a little bumps along the way, right? And there's going to be some up and down in the healing process, right? So we can understand that. But what we're talking about here is being able to be aware of some of those things. Part of awareness is also awareness of those areas of growth. So,
yeah, there's a great line in the new Star Wars show where somebody says, calibrate your enthusiasm. Okay? And I kind of like it for this setting of calibrate your progress. Right? You have to be able to have a good, accurate understanding of how much you have really grown or not grown. And that's for you guys to think about. Or, obviously when you do a coaching with us, we're going to help you in that area. I may be a little more blunt.
We have a good cop, bad cop kind of thing going on here.
But everybody knows that when I do a coaching with you guys, it's because I'm always trying to be honest, and, I care about your progress and I care about how you are successful. So I can be tough sometimes, right? It's true. I admit it. But I do it for your own well-being, or as from knowing what's going to come and doing this a long time, I know the areas you're going to struggle if you don't make changes, right? And the challenges that are going to be ahead, like getting in front of your ex and how challenging it's going to be to have emotional self-control. I've been there. That's why I was crying at Applebee's, right?
You were crying at Applebee's.
You never heard that one?
Get a load of this guy.
So let's get into this email coaching I got today. They said, Dear Coach Craig and Victoria, I hope you're both very well. My name is Pedro, and I am engaged in a coaching session with Craig in the fall of last year regarding a breakup. We both have an anxious attachment style. She broke up with me in the late summer prior to one of my night shifts working as an in-charge emergency doctor at a very busy hospital. The relationship was not a good one. The anxiety kicked in on both parts, and the chemistry never developed. I was over-texting, and every ounce of me was giving off an anxious, desperate energy, which lowered my value. As a result, my ex, who was at her core a lovely girl, treated me horribly. I had a coaching session with Craig on Skype and told him about how I missed my last date with her after inadvertently locking my keys in the car. He commented that this was likely the universe saving me from this girl, LOL. Boy, was he right. I had a session with Victoria a couple weeks later to get her perspective. However, I was so distressed that she really had to take on the role of clinical psychologist rather than counsel me on the relationship. This helped a lot.
We do coaching again for legal reasons.
During this time, I did the knowledge. I had no idea that anxiety had such a destructive role in romantic relationships. I learned CAPE and how to be your superhero. I learned about being present, listening, and looking for her cues, and about being an amazing partner. Essentially, I learned how to be your best option. I also learned about why I have been anxious in relationships. I analyzed previous relationships through the workbook and was able to identify areas that I had gone wrong, what anxiety triggers are, and how to respond rather than react. About 3 months ago, I met Gloria. She is about 11 years younger than me, and she has 100% secure attachment style.
So, as with a lot of things in life, right? 100% secure attachment style. The secure attachment style, it's more of this ideal, right? I don't know if you've heard of the term the good enough mother, right? Yeah. And that's basically the idea that there is no such thing as a perfect person. There's no such thing as somebody who's perfectly, attached to somebody or who has a perfect attachment style, right? But there's this idea of good enough. And what does the good enough mean? Mm-hmm. It just basically means that there's enough there for somebody to go through a healthy development with their mother. And just like with attachment with a partner, there's enough there for the relationship to feel secure, for it to progress, for it to become more intimate and more connected, for trust to develop, for healthy interdependence to develop. So that's really what that good enough could look like. So 100% secure, something I would contest a little bit, but It sounds like she's secure, makes him feel secure, and makes him feel good. Okay,
but there's one big thing here that we got to take a look at. I'm going to repeat this again. About 3 months ago, I met Gloria. You are not, I repeat, not going to know somebody's attachment style after 3 months. They are going to look like a very, very different person a year into a relationship than they do 3 months in. How many calls in a week does somebody say to you, the relationship was good for about 5 to 6 months, they looked really secure?
Yeah. It happens very often. Your attachment system doesn't get activated until some time has passed, until you can really experience a whole variety of emotions with each other, which in 3 months, maybe, but not very likely. It takes time to be attached to someone.
And that is why I'm saying up front about what you don't know yet. Because when you start learning this stuff, you think you have it all figured out. But no, I've been doing this a long time. People are not going to really show you who they are in those first 3 months. You're going to have like this kind of fantasy version of them. Okay, let's go on here.
And I'll also add, we have a video on how those with avoidant attachment styles can look secure in the beginning. So see that video if it's relevant.
Yeah. She had a long-term relationship with someone that cheated on her. She is of the opinion that this was due to insecurity on his part. They went to couples therapy, but in the end, she walked away from the relationship. She was absolutely blown away by my deep knowledge and reflections on relationships. However, she is cautious of my insecurity as this has led to her being betrayed in the past. Okay, so she's cautious, which she should be, but is she cautious because she's avoidant? Maybe. We don't know. Something to consider. But she's been hurt and cheated on. We did, however, get serious quite quickly. Does that sound like 100% secure to you? We did, however, get serious quite quickly and fell into a pattern of the workday. Me picking her up and going to her place, getting intimate, then making dinner together before falling asleep and repeating the cycle. By the way, I just want to point out that this is how anxious people go into every single detail, and so you know he's still got a lot of anxiety. Avoidant emails are like, I met her, but then we broke up. Not sure what happened.
There's so much truth to that.
Anxious people go into every single detail about everything because they're afraid if you don't have every detail, I can't help. No, we know because we've done this a lot. So, you'll watch all the details that he puts in here. This is me telling you that he has a lot of anxiety that he's not aware of still. We started to say I love you to each other after a month or so. I know what you're thinking. Okay, here we go. Here's another one. I love you after a month or so. Okay. I know what you two are thinking right now, and I can literally see Craig shaking his head. I didn't get a chance to finish the sentence yet.
He's watched enough of our videos to anticipate your reaction.
I have practiced CAPE. I am her superhero, and I have implemented all the tools I have learned directly from you, the channel, and the workbook. Not all the tools, but you're improving. She is very impressed by this. However, had I met her prior to finding the two of you, I would not have been able to get this far in the relationship. That is for sure. Put that in bold caps. I had a really tough couple of weeks at work, only spending about one complete 24-hour period out of the hospital in 15 days. Again, this is the anxious details that we can tell. You don't have to give us this kind of details, but this is reflective of his anxiety level still. That's what I'm trying to get at here. I dealt with a lot of high-stake critical patients, a lot of deaths and sadness. I finally had a weekend off last weekend, and Gloria and I went on a double date with her best friend. He's even given the names. I'm not going to give the names. Last week. We had a great time. Following day, she and I spent time together in the morning and had a lot of fun. It was my first day off in a while, and we had a few drinks. I got a bit silly, and she saw a side of me she didn't love.
Okay.
Well, there's going to be a lot of sides of you she's not going to love because she doesn't really know you yet at 3 months in.
Well, I'll say part of this is anxiety, but I also can feel that part of this is the excitement of new love and new relationship energy. So I just want to acknowledge that too. There's an excitement behind telling every detail too of, oh my gosh. And then she said this, and then she winked at me, and then I flipped my hair. And
you down with NRE? Yeah, you know me. New relationship energy.
So I can feel it seething from the words here. But interesting, when he said silly, I thought it was going to go a different way.
Yeah, she didn't like silly.
She didn't like that.
Why wouldn't she like silly? Maybe she's avoidant. I don't know.
We don't know if she's avoidant.
We don't know if she's avoidant. That's why I'm saying I don't know. But let's see. Let's see what else we got here. I didn't spend that night with her and caught up with her the next day, but I could feel that there was tension and distance between us. It culminated in me asking her what was going on in a calm, non-judgmental way, and she said she needed space to process what had happened the day before. So what happened? He says I got a bit silly, and she didn't like the silly side?
Rambunctious, it could be loud, it could be perceived in different ways.
I guess she wouldn't like our channel.
Well, I don't know how silly
he was. Maybe he was extra super silly.
Maybe super duper silly.
Yeah. I don't know. It would have been nice to know what that one detail was. That's the one detail I want, and I'm not getting here. He's told me the name of her friends, their best friend, where they went to dinner, but he doesn't tell us what happened that she didn't like. The one detail we need.
But one thing I do appreciate about this is that he's able to describe how he's thinking about the conflict, how he's reacting to it, the fact that he's able to be calm. And honestly, it's kind of like somebody learning, like a kid learning a word for the first time. They say it all the time. They're excited to say it all the time, right? Just like when you learn how to ride a bike, that's all you can think of is like the next day you're like, I'm going to ride that bike all day. I'm going to ride it down the street. And so I think there's an excitement in being able to see these skills in yourself after having struggled with them for so long.
Yeah. But that's why you have to really learn this stuff, because in the moment when you get in front of your ex or get to start dating somebody new, you have to be able to curb your enthusiasm, which is one of my favorite shows. So I had to throw that in there. I told her that I was absolutely fine. I gave her a hug, picked up my belongings, kissed her goodbye, and then said, in case I don't see her again, it has been really nice being with her. She replied that she will see me again. Again, there's that drama from the anxious person, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In case I never see you again.
Ta-ta for now.
Ta-ta forever, apparently.
In an old-timey voice.
But this is what I'm saying. You have to be aware of these little things because they do turn people off, especially if they're avoidant. I got in my car, opened YouTube, and searched Craig Kenneth She Wants Space. I immediately got the answers I needed and went no contact. It was hard. My Lord, it was hard. I had to keep coming back to videos from Craig and Victoria to reaffirm the commitment to staying no contact. I went to work and carried on focusing on what I needed to do. I also saw a psychologist whom I had fantastic rapport. Roughly 72 hours after I last saw her, 72 hours, 13 minutes, and 15 seconds, she finally texted me. Hey, how are you? I was in the supermarket at the time. Do you see what I mean about the details? I was holding beans. The beans were heavy. They were expensive, but they were on sale. So I bought 2 cans. An avoidant would be like, I had heard from her like a week later, but I can't remember what she said. Right?
Yeah, it's so true.
It's true.
It is true. And I just want to also reiterate, when we talk about no contact, we're really talking about during a breakup. Sometimes I see people try to implement no contact while in a relationship. It sounded like she tried to be reassuring. I'm going to see you again. It sounded like, so we have to be mindful about what we're trying to do and at what time, right? The timing is very important and the context is very important here.
For those of you that are sitting back and you're feeling like, ooh, I feel like this is hitting close to home, right, with these details, it's a good reflection of how much anxiety you still have, okay? You don't have to give all of these details for us to get the concept, But the more details, the more specific details you're giving us, like what he's about to do in the next 3 sentences, the more you're going to say, oh, wow, I have more anxiety than I realized. And it's helpful for you to know.
Right.
You know, when I used to be more anxious, I would find myself pacing a lot on phone calls and stuff like that. But now I've worked through that, so I'm like a lot more calmer. So I can relate with this, but you have to be able to laugh at this sometimes, you know?
Right. And I'll say, even with my own personal experience in therapy, in my first couple sessions, it was overflowing, right? And there is a skill in being able to explain what you're thinking to others, right?
Yeah.
And to just be aware of the context. When you're very anxious, you can really get into the habit of reliving the experience as you're telling it. And that becomes kind of like you reenacting it and in your retelling, and that's where a lot of that anxiety can come from. So that's what I see here, is every detail is being shared, because it's almost like he's reliving these moments as, he's sharing them with us.
Yeah. So let's see what happens. Roughly 72 hours after I last saw her, she texted me, "Hey, how are you?" I was in the supermarket at the time, getting the beans. I finished what I was doing, went home and showered, reflected on what I wanted to reply, how verbose I should be, and the tone I should use. I decided to mirror her interest level and simply replied, "Hey, I'm good, how are you?" About 30 minutes later, she replied, "I'm good. I was wondering if you wanted to catch up for dinner tomorrow." Okay, so this is a good sign. I said, "I can do tomorrow, maybe about 7:30 or so." She said, "Sounds good." I didn't reply any further. The next day, I decided to get some lilies, her favorite flowers, delivered to me at the hospital. Okay, this is a little too much, okay? You don't want to overwhelm. Okay, this is going to overwhelm somebody. I thought I will put my best foot forward, dress well, be confident, and detach from the outcome. It could be a breakup dinner or a makeup dinner, and either way I was prepared. I finished work, showered, put on a collared shirt and crew neck, and looked fantastic. I drove to her house, put the lilies down on her porch, out of sight, and knocked on her door. She opened it, and we hugged. We chatted for about a minute before she asked, "Can I kiss you?" Okay, so this is going good. We kissed, and then I asked, "Would you like me to bring in the flowers?" She said, "What flowers?" And I walked out and brought the lilies in for her. We had a wonderful dinner. She was surprised and impressed by my ability to give her space. She also reflected that we were too serious too quickly, and while we are both open, honest, and our true vulnerable selves with each other, we have kind of skipped the fun initial part of dating.
Wow, I'm glad that she was able to be that direct and straightforward with him. This is something that got to really pay attention to when somebody says to you.
Yes.
And it's real, while there can be that excitement of wanting to know somebody very quickly, wanting to spend the night, wanting to kind of get into that relationship mode with somebody, there is an excitement about having a crush. Having a crush is so fun. Being able to think about them, being able to wonder and have some of that mystery and curiosity. So I'm glad that she's brought this up, the initial fun part of dating.
Yes.
It's important.
Yes, I agree. I agreed with this, and I drove her home and said goodnight. This was 2 nights ago. Last night we caught up and went out. Neither of us knew what we were looking at, but we had a fun time at an exhibit, being playful, doing something different. It was a really magical time. We went out for dinner afterwards, and I dropped her home. She wants to get together this weekend and do some shopping and come back to her place and make a nice meal. I think this is great. She texted me this morning to say, "Last night was really nice," and I replied, "I had a really wonderful night with you." I'm not going to over-text. I'm not going to be insecure when I do feel that insecurity, and she can tell. I'll just let her know that this is how I am feeling. I am working on it, seeing my psychologist regularly. She is happy with how I am in the relationship, although we are going to slow things down a little, create that space, which will in turn result in that fun desire for each other. She also acknowledges how hard I work and what I deal with every day. It's tough being an emergency doctor where people are really sick. If I have a day off, and get a bit silly, that is understandable, and I appreciate her acknowledging this.
I like the use of the word silly.
But we don't know what it means. Is he dancing around in just a sock? We don't know what that means. And where could that sock be? You just wonder. How silly could this man be? We don't know. Silly it's a vague thing, right? Which is ironic because he's so specific about everything else except for what silly means. What does silly mean? In summary, I'm so excited to send you this story. I hope this story finds its way onto the channel. I did everything you taught me, and boy, does it work. I think your channel should be part of the high school curriculum rather than it becoming something I discovered in my early 40s. You two are the best. But of course, the beautiful late Margaret was the best of the best. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you for what you do. You have been lifesavers for me. All the best. I will stay tuned to your channel and, of course, revise my workbooks again. Okay, so to me, this sounds like we've got an anxious guy that was pushing things to go too much too soon. I don't think he's really aware of how anxious he still is, okay? He's been able to get himself under control. He's been able to put the channel back on and stick to the plan. But if he doesn't continue doing that work, I think he's going to wind up unconsciously smothering this woman again.
Right, and you have to remember that attachment styles, they're all going to be relevant to whoever you are talking to. So if you're talking to somebody who's extremely avoidant, they're going to see your behavior, the way you attach, in a very different light than somebody who's secure or somebody who's anxious. Right? So what's most important is being able to receive that feedback from your partner, to be able to be aware of the body language that's happening, to be able to be aware of what you feel comfortable with, what your partner feels comfortable with. That's really what matters at the end of the day. I'm glad that she was able to be clear about, hey, this is going a little bit too fast, and giving you a chance to reset here. One thing about anxiety is that it is hard to differentiate between excitement and what makes you nervous sometimes. And that's what I see here. I see here in getting to know her, there's been kind of that anxious nervousness of, wanting to propel this forward, rather than being able to see, if we create some space here, we can feel this wanting to be around somebody. We can experience the separation anxiety, but it can actually be an enjoyable experience. Yeah. It can feel like longing. It can feel like desire. And that can be something that's positive and helps you to create that space rather than feeling that anxious need to always fill in the gap. So, it's one of those things that sometimes you'll see actually with long distance relationships is they talk every day, you kind of have the same mundane type of day, conversations get boring, relationship dies out, right? If you're able to do things in the periods of time where you don't see each other, then you have a lot more to talk about the next time you do. Yeah. And that's really on interdependence. That's really on being able to have your own life, your own world, your own interests, things that you're excited to share and bring with your partner, and also having that relationship where the two of you do come together. Yeah. So
there's a lot to think about, and they're still in the very early stages of this relationship, and she's backed off. So determining what her attachment style is, he's going to have to take some more time to figure that out. I am absolutely not convinced that she's 100% secure. Right. Okay? That's going to come as more time with her, more clear as he spends more time with her. Traits will come out, tendencies will come out. I'm glad that she was able to articulate that things are going too fast. So that's a good sign. But this is still new. You got to get to know each other and see how you guys line up. It's so easy to get excited about somebody new, and it's really harder for people who didn't get their needs met in their childhood. We fantasize about people that we don't really know yet, and then we wind up with a broken heart. So that's why I always tell you guys to take your time getting to know somebody and realize that they're not going to be as perfect as they appear in the beginning. They're going to have issues. You're going to have issues. You're going to struggle. And so, don't just get caught up in the excitement and all the chemicals being released in your body. Because if you do, you're likely going to overwhelm somebody and scare them away.
Yeah. And one thing I can appreciate about this email is the awareness of the progress. I know we had talked about being able to be mindful of where you're at and areas of growth. It's always important to celebrate the wins. I'm really glad that he's so excited that he's been able to manage some of these situations. Our hope is that this becomes like second nature, right? It's kind of like riding a bike. The first couple times you get very excited about it, but the more you do it, then maybe you can practice with different gears. Maybe you can go through different terrain, practice, different types of bikes, right? So the analogy here is skills are things that you build on and develop. Being able to give somebody space, these are some of the foundational skills that you need. So we're glad that you are here.
Yeah. Yeah, just be aware of the things that we're talking about today. Make a conscious effort to consider these things because they're such a big part of attraction. And it's why so many people wind up losing somebody that they really like because they're just overwhelming that person, right? So that's why I break these things down, so you can see, oh my goodness, I'm making these mistakes. Because honestly, correcting those things can make a huge difference with attraction.
Right, and I also want to say, you can't bully yourself into a better version of yourself. I know some of you might disagree with me, but a more effective effort.
Stay in no contact.
You loser. No. A more effective approach would be to think about the things that you want to go for, right? And think about the things that you are doing well and kind of have more of that encouragement type of approach. So that's really what we're hoping here, is to encourage you to be able to take some of these next steps in being able to manage some anxiety. We're giving you some feedback today. We're hoping that you're receptive to it. There's still a lot to grow, from here on out.
Yeah. All right. So hopefully this one's been helpful to you. And of course, if you want to get our help personally, you could do that on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Zoom calls. Coach Victoria is also available for Zoom calls.
I'm here whenever you'd like to chat.
Just click on her name at the top of the website to schedule with her. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.